Music Management Podcast, your gateway to the cutting edge of innovation and the world of navigating the music industry as an indie artist. Join our hosts as they explore the latest trends in the industry, artist breakthroughs, IRM releases, and more on the IRM Music Management Podcast, powered by Indie Roadmap.
Hey everyone, have you ever felt like booking gigs is kind of like a guessing game? You know, like you're just throwing stuff at the wall and hoping something sticks.
I can definitely relate to that feeling, especially as an independent artist. It's easy to feel lost in the shuffle.
Yeah, and it can be super frustrating to put all this time and energy into your music and then feel like you're hitting a brick wall when it comes to actually getting it out there in front of people.
Totally. But what if there was a way to make booking gigs more strategic, more like a science than an art?
Well, that's exactly what we're going to dive into today. We're taking a deep dive into this strategic approach to booking by Indie Roadmap, or IRM for short.
IRM. Okay, I've heard good things about them. They're all about helping independent artists build sustainable careers, right?
Right. And this guide is packed with practical advice and actionable steps that you can start using right away to book more gigs, make more money, and ultimately take your music career to the next level.
I'm excited to see what they have to say, especially about booking 25 to 100 shows a year. Like, how is that even possible?
I know, it sounds kind of crazy, right? But they break it down in a way that actually feels doable. And one of the things they emphasize right off the bat is the importance of working with a manager to strategize your booking.
That makes sense. Having someone with experience and connections in the industry can be a huge asset.
Totally. And IRM really stresses that it's not just about blindly sending out emails to every venue under the sun. It's about getting strategic and figuring out which venues are the right fit for your music and your target audience.
So it's about finding those sweet spots where your music and your audience intersect. Makes sense. But how do you actually do that? I mean, how do you know which venues are the right fit?
Well, that's where the data comes in. A good manager will help you analyze market trends, look at your past performance data, and really figure out which touring options are going to be the most effective for you.
Ah, so it's like having a personalized roadmap for success. You're not just wandering around in the dark anymore. You have a clear direction.
Exactly. And speaking of roadmaps, IRM has a really cool system for streamlining the booking process. They actually have this one-click system for sending out personalized emails to venues.
One click, really? Like, how many emails are we talking about here?
Up to 50 a day.
Wow, that's a lot of emails. But I'm curious about the personalized part. How does it work?
So basically, you and your manager work together to create these awesome promo packs. It's like a digital package with everything a venue needs to know about you. Your bio, photos, music samples, links to your website and socials. And get this, the system automatically plugs all that info into a template email and sends it out. It even handles the follow-ups.
Okay, so it's like automation on steroids. But I gotta ask, wouldn't venues be turned off by getting a templated email? Don't they want something more personal?
That's what I thought too. But IRM makes a good point. They say it's actually more professional to have consistent branding and clear info, especially when you're reaching out to so many venues. And you know, when you think about it, it makes sense. If you're a venue owner getting bombarded with emails from artists, you're more likely to pay attention to the ones that are well organized and easy to read, right?
Yeah, I see their point. It's like cut through the clutter.
Exactly. And it frees up your time to focus on the stuff that really matters. Building relationships with venues and promoters.
Right, because no amount of automation can replace that human connection. So how much time does IRM recommend you spend on building those relationships each week?
This is going to blow your mind.
Yeah.
Just 2 hours total.
2 hours for the whole week to book 25 to 100 shows a year. Okay, I need details. How do they make that work?
So they break it down like this.
Yeah.
You spend about 5 to 10 minutes a day sending out those automated emails, and then the rest of the time is for phone calls, DMs, and just really building those relationships.
So it's all about quality over quantity. You're not just spamming everyone. You're making every interaction count.
Right. And IRM argues that it's actually more effective to have a shorter, more focused booking session each day than trying to cram everything to one giant marathon session.
That makes sense. Keeps you from burning out and helps you stay focused.
Yeah, exactly. And they say that by using this approach, you can reach out to around 250 venues every single week.
250. Wow. That's a lot of potential gigs. But it still comes down to the quality of those connections, right? Like, how do you make sure you're making a good impression and standing out from the crowd?
Well, that's where the training and resources that IRM provides come in. They have a ton of stuff on crafting compelling pitches, negotiating, and building long-term relationships with venues.
That's crucial. Because landing one gig is great, but building a relationship with a venue where they keep inviting you back, that's where the real magic happens.
Absolutely. And IRM has some really interesting insights into how to make that happen. But before we jump into that, I think it's time for a quick break.
All right, so we talked about efficiency and all that, but um, how does this actually translate into dollars for artists?
Yeah, that's the question, right? IRM actually uses this example. It's like a $300 show.
Okay, $300. That's a pretty decent starting point, I guess, for a lot of independent artists, right?
Yeah, for sure. And like if you could book 25 shows at that rate, you're already making $7,500.
Okay, yeah. So that's not bad at all, considering we're talking about, what, like 2 hours a week dedicated to booking?
Exactly. And it gets even better because IRM says that a good booking strategy isn't just about getting individual gigs. It's about like turning those gigs into long-term relationships with venues.
Okay, so how do you do that?
Well, they use this example. Let's say you play that $300 show, right? You do a great job, you're professional, you connect with the audience, like you really nail it. Well, if you make a good impression, that same venue might book you like 3 to 6 more times.
Wow. So you're saying that initial $300 gig could turn into like $900 to $1,800?
Yeah, over the course of a year. It's pretty wild.
It really shows you the power of thinking long term. It's not just about, chasing every single gig that comes your way.
Right. It's about building something sustainable.
Hmm.
So IRM talks about like consistent communication, like staying in touch with venues, letting them know about new releases or sending them holiday cards, stuff like that.
I mean, those little things can really go a long way, I bet.
Yeah, I think so too. And they also talk about being professional,
Hmm.
in all your interactions.
Right, of course. Professionalism is key in any business, but especially in music.
Yeah. And they even provide templates for contracts and stuff like that just to make sure everything is legit.
Wow, so they really try to cover all the bases. It's like they've really thought of everything an artist would need.
They really have. And one of the things I found most interesting was this idea of creating a one-page promo site just for venues.
Wait, a promo site specifically for venues. What's that?
Okay, so it's basically like a condensed version of your website.
Yeah.
But it has all the info a venue would need. Your
Mhm.
bio, pics, music, stage plot, tech writer, contact info, all that.
Oh, that's a great idea. They don't have to, like, dig around to find what they need. It's just all right there.
Exactly. And it makes you look super organized and professional, which venues appreciate.
Right, because they're busy people. They don't have time to waste.
For sure. And it just shows that you understand their needs, like you're speaking their language.
Yeah, I get it. So it's like this shift from scarcity to abundance, right?
Exactly. Instead of, competing with everyone for gigs, it's more about collaboration.
Yeah, I like that. So instead of stressing out about every little thing, you can focus on building those connections.
Right. And that can lead to like more gigs, more fans, a more sustainable career. It's like a win-win.
A virtuous cycle. Okay, I'm digging this.
Me too.
Huh.
But when I first heard about all this, I was a little skeptical. I was like, does this actually work?
Yeah, I was wondering the same thing. Is this just theory, or are there artists out there who are actually using this and seeing results?
That's a great question. And guess what? IRM actually highlights some artists who are using their system, and the results they're seeing are pretty awesome.
Ah, cool. So let's hear about those.
So we were wondering if this stuff actually works, right?
Right.
And IRM highlights some artists who are using this system, and they're getting some pretty amazing results.
Yeah, like what kind of artists? Are we talking like big names or?
It's actually a pretty diverse group, which I think shows that like the system can work for a bunch of different people.
Yeah.
There are singer-songwriters who went from like open mics to actually touring.
Oh, wow. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, there's this rock band that got into a festival using IRM's outreach strategies.
Festivals are huge. That's awesome.
Yeah, and there's even this electronic music producer who says IRM helped them book a bunch of club gigs in Europe.
Europe. No kidding. It sounds like this is working for different genres and different career levels.
Yeah, and I think what really stood out to me in those stories was like how these artists talk about a change in their mindset. They went from feeling kind of lost and overwhelmed to feeling like they had more control.
Yeah, that makes sense because when you have a plan and you're doing something consistently, it can definitely boost your confidence.
Totally. Like you're not just waiting around for something to happen. You're actually making things happen.
Exactly. And that confidence probably shows in everything you do, like on stage and when you're talking to venues and fans.
For sure. And what's interesting is that like none of these artists became successful overnight. They all talk about being consistent and not giving up.
That's so important. It's easy to think that success just happens, but most of the time it takes a lot of hard work and dedication.
Right, and IRM even says it can take like 2 months to get that first booking using their system.
2 months. Okay, so it's not like a quick fix.
No, but they say if you stick with it, if you keep reaching out and building those relationships, you'll see the results.
It's about the long game, right? Like building a career that lasts, not just getting a few quick gigs.
Totally. And you know what? It's not just for musicians either. The idea of having a plan, working hard, and building relationships can apply to a lot of different things.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Like if you're trying to start a business or get your writing published or anything, really.
Right. It's all about finding ways to show off your talent and connect with the right people.
And remembering that success takes time and effort. There will be ups and downs, but if you keep going, you'll get there.
So to wrap up this deep dive into IRM and their approach to booking gigs, what are some key things our listeners can take away and use for themselves?
Well, I think the biggest thing is realizing that booking gigs doesn't have to be this crazy stressful thing. With a strategy, you can actually make it something you enjoy.
I agree. And remember that it's about connecting with people who love music, not just trying to get as many gigs as possible.
And don't be afraid to ask for help. There are people out there like the folks at IRM who can help you along the way.
That's right. So to everyone listening, thanks for joining us today. We hope you learned something new and feel inspired to take your creative journey to the next level.
And if you want to learn more about IRM, check out their website. They've got tons of resources there, even a free consultation with a manager.
Awesome.